Part 19. My Retirement Life in Neon. Author, Wu Nangkuang Song. Chapter 181. Quick, quick, quick. What's the reason? That's right. Hosokawa Ryo finally extracted the key information from the information that Lin Zion usually chatted with her. Reina-chan will definitely not go, Hosokawa Ryo said firmly. Why? Lin Zion felt that Hosokawa's reason seemed to have changed, and even his words were different. Because Reina-chan wants to lose weight, she will definitely not eat dessert. No, she's just talking about losing weight. Lin Zion laughed and complained, she just ate a small cone last night. That's right, her mother used this to induce her to go out for a walk. That's even more impossible. Hosokawa Ryo spoke more and more quietly, and in the end she didn't even know what she was saying. Okay, I won't go with Reina. Lin Zion didn't know what happened between the two of them, so he didn't force them. But let's send Reina home first, or have dinner at my house, and I'll do it. No need, someone will send her home before. Lin Zion asked. Hosokawa Lee gave the reason, you were not at home these 2 days and her friends sent her home. I know that person. She is a little girl from a rich family. She has a domineering personality, so she doesn't have many friends. But this time she should have regarded Reina as a friend, otherwise she wouldn't have let Reina get in her car. It's a good thing that Reina has friends. She can't be like me. Lin Zion felt it necessary to get to know her friends. Then Hosokawa Ryo tried. Okay, let's go first. Lin Zion sent a message to Reina, asking her to go back first, and then he and Hosokawa Ryo came to the dessert shop outside the school. It was not over yet, and the business near the school was for students, so there were not many people in the shop, only a young lady was watching the shop. After the two of them ordered, they chose a seat and sat down. Because Lin Zion was afraid that Hosokawa Ryo would be like last time, he chose a seat at the back. When Lin Zion and Hosokawa Ryo chatted, they either talked about family matters or food, so Lin Zion felt that talking to her was particularly easy. Are you free this Sunday? The food had not been served yet, so Lin Zion started chatting with Hosokawa Ryo. I am free. Hosokawa Ryo nodded excitedly. Is Ching-tian going to ask me out? I'm sorry that I didn't make the hot pot I promised you last time, so if you are free, come to my house on Sunday and I will teach you how to make it. Okay, although it was a little different from what she thought, Hosokawa Ryo didn't mind. After all, the road was walked out. The two chatted for a while, and a man in work clothes brought up the things they ordered. Container. Why are you here? Lin Zion raised his head in horror when he heard the voice. The only person who could make him panic was that person. It's you. Lin Zion looked at her and suddenly found that he had forgotten the name. You know, he couldn't forget the person he wanted to remember. Could it be that his memory was tampered with? Is she really the messenger of chaos and order? Is there anything else in this world that I don't know? What's wrong with Ching-tian, classmate? Hosokawa Ryo looked at Lin Zion in confusion. She had never seen the expression on Lin Zion's face before. Oh, Lin Zion reacted and asked back, why are you here? I'm working here, didn't you see? Mao Yuxuan Chawai put the things in her hand on the table. Guest, this is what you ordered. Ah! How could I ask such a stupid question? Lin Zion's powerful function was revealed at this time, and he restarted almost instantly and returned to his original appearance. Of course I know you are working, but what I want to ask you is that you can't work at your age, right? The school clearly stipulates that junior high school students cannot work outside the school. Lin Zion reacted and recovered 10%, alleviating the embarrassment just now. If no one says anything, it's not considered part-time work. Mao Yuxuan Kinhui smiled and looked at Lin Zion. You said so, deep. Don't say it, I know. Lin Zion stopped her from continuing. I hope the customers enjoy their meals, Mao Yuxuan Kinhui said and left. After school, there were more customers in the store. She couldn't just speak in code with Lin Zion, there were other customers waiting to order. As Mao Yuxu and Kinhui left, Hosokawa Ryo asked curiously, "Does Qingtian know her?" A friend, named Mao Yuxu and Kinhui. Lin Ziyan didn't want to say more. He just realized that he didn't remember her name. It was probably because he took the initiative to erase it. Maybe he subconsciously felt that the memory was too shameful. Oh, Hosokawa Ryo didn't ask any more, because she felt that the relationship between the two was a bit strange, and she was not a talkative person. She preferred to use her own brain to think it out. Because Mao Yuxu and Kinhui was there, Lin Ziyan quickly finished eating and paid the bill and left. Only when he went out to the street did Lin Ziyan breathe a sigh of relief. The two walked to the intersection. In the past, Hosokawa Ryo would separate from Lin Ziyan here, but today she obviously had no such intention, and walked to the door with Lin Ziyan. "Ryo, come in and sit for a while." Lin Ziyan saw her coming here and probably wanted to come here for a meal. After all, she hadn't been here for a while. "Okay," Hosokawa Ryo agreed with a smile. "Not only do I want to go to the dessert shop, I also want to eat at your house. I want everything. Jpg. Lin Ziyan was still very welcome to Hosokawa Ryo to come over for dinner. They were all friends. But Oda Reina didn't think so. Oda Reina had originally thought about walking home with Lin Ziyan. After all, they hadn't been together for 2 days. Who knew that before school was over, she received a message from Lin Ziyan, saying that he had something to do and asked her to go home with her friends first. Her first reaction was to find Hosokawa Ryo to ask where Lin Ziyan had gone, but she couldn't find him. When she saw Lin Ziyan and Hosokawa Ryo coming in together, she knew that Hosokawa Ryo must have been causing trouble and came back at least half an hour later than usual. Where did the two of them go and what did they do during this period? As soon as Lin Ziyan entered the door, he saw Oda Reina staring at him. After all, he had just carried her to eat delicious food, and he felt a little guilty. "Where's Michiko?" Lin Ziyan had to find some topics to ease the embarrassment. "Mom is making clothes upstairs," Oda Reina replied expressionlessly. "Oh, I see." Lin Ziyan felt a breath of energy locking onto him, and quickly found an excuse to leave. "What would you like to drink, Ryo?" "Anything is fine." Hosokawa Ryo glanced at Oda Reina, then sat on the sofa and played with her phone. Oda Reina heard her phone ring, and she knew it was the notification sound of the chat software, and she only had 3 friends. She didn't need to guess to know that it was Hosokawa Ryo in front of her who sent her a message. She picked up the phone. "I found something, Reina, do you want to know? My retirement life in Neon." Author, Wu Nangkuang Song. Chapter 182. Seeing this, Oda Reina subconsciously looked towards the kitchen. She knew that what Hosokawa Ryo said must be related to Lin Ziyan. "Where did you go just now?" Reina did not fall into the trap set by Hosokawa Ryo. Compared with Hosokawa Ryo's discovery, she wanted to know where the two people went. Moreover, the two people agreed to share information because of the matter of Takaishi Momo and divided Lin Ziyan into 2 parts. Now Hosokawa Ryo has already invaded her territory. If she doesn't tell her, she can tear up the treaty and reversely invade the school part of Lin Ziyan. More importantly, Takaishi Momo is now missing, which means that the core issue of the treaty signed by the two people is gone, which has led to the relationship between the two people returning to a competitive state. She felt that Hosokawa Ryo had already taken action. "I'm going to follow Qingtian, classmate." Hosokawa Ryo pressed the send button. She originally thought that she could use that little discovery to divert Oda Reina's attention, but now it seems she has become smarter. In addition, because of the disappearance of Takaishi Momo, Oda Reina's resistance psychology has become more serious. But this is irrelevant to Hosokawa Ryo. "Why did you follow my brother? You pervert." "Because Qingtian didn't go home directly after school, I followed him." "Don't you want to know what I found?" I wanted to use this topic to drive Hosokawa Ryo out, but now she hesitated. If I faced this situation, I would probably follow him. You have violated the agreement. You shouldn't come to my house. Otorina still didn't want to bow to Hosokawa Ryo. Once she said she wanted to know, it would be equivalent to being forced to admit Hosokawa Ryo's behavior today, so it would be best to use the agreement to pressure her and let her say it herself. This is because the situation is urgent, so I came. Hosokawa Ryo still wanted to maintain this agreement, because it would benefit her more than Rina. What are you doing? Lin Zion came out of the kitchen and saw that both of them were playing with their phones and asked. Where did Unai-chan go just now? There is one thing about Otorina that Hosokawa Ryo can't do, that is, her relationship with Lin Zion. She can ask directly. This. Just as Lin Zion was about to say something, Reina's phone rang, attracting her attention. Qingtian and a woman are in the dessert shop. Because of Lin Zion, Hosokawa Ryo was forced to play his own hand to save Zhao from Wei. Lin Zion saw Otorina's face change drastically, and just leaned over to see what she saw, but who knew that Reina quickly turned off the screen, and he saw nothing. Ryo, have some tea. Lin Zion put the cup in front of Hosokawa Ryo and sat down. Thank you. Hosokawa Ryo nodded in thanks, and then played with her phone again. Lin Zion looked at the two people, and it was a bit strange at first, but soon he found that the frequency of their typing was complementary. It turned out that the two people were talking on the phone. Lin Zion, who was sandwiched between the two people, had nothing to say. That, Ryo is here today, I'm going to prepare dinner first. Lin Zion also made an excuse to slip away. The atmosphere was too strange. As soon as Lin Zion left, the typing speed of the two people increased by more than double. What did you say just now? Do you know Nikoyukan Chiat? Otorina wanted to get the information in Hosokawa Ryo's hands, and Hosokawa Ryo also needed the information in Otorina's hands. She heard from Lin Zion that Nikoyukan Chiat was a junior high school student, and the only possible connection between the two was Otorina. Otorina thought about the name Nikoyukan Chiat. In her memory, it seemed that she had only met her once on the day of the entrance examination. A girl taller than her, not very pretty, just a little cute. Now that I think about it, Unai-chan's attitude towards her at that time did seem to be problematic, as if she was hiding something from me. I met her once, but I'm not very familiar with her. Seeing that Otorina didn't know either, Hosokawa Ryo didn't care. It was very likely that she had no friends in school if she could hang out with her friend. After all, not everyone could stand that person's bad temper. Hosokawa Ryo didn't realize that she was the same, and she was laughing at her. What are they doing in the dessert shop? Otorina saw that Hosokawa Ryo didn't respond and continued to ask. What can you do in a dessert shop? Just eat and chat. Speaking of this, Hosokawa Ryo was angry. Lin Zion and she were really eating and chatting, and they were all talking about food. The more they talked, the hungrier she got. If Lin Zion wasn't there, she would definitely order more food. Fortunately, she held back in the end. Did you hear what they were saying? I was following them, not with them. How would I know? Not to mention that Hosokawa Ryo didn't understand the jargon the two people were saying. Even if she understood it, she couldn't tell Otorina. After having Nikoyukan Chiat, Otorina's attention was obviously not on Hosokawa Ryo. After all, the unknown is the most terrifying, and she doesn't know what the relationship between Lin Zion and her is. Hosokawa Ryo looked at Otorina thinking, and she knew that her plan was successful. Without Takaishi Momo, she created a Nikoyukan Chiat to stabilize Rina first and distract her attention, which would make her actions much easier. Then the two chatted casually. Both of them were perfunctory, they both wanted to know information they didn't know from the other. But it's hard to say how much of the information released by both sides is true. Hey! Ryo is here. Ota Michiko came down from upstairs and shouted in surprise. Although Otorina and Hosokawa Ryo are not on good terms, Ota Michiko likes the sensible child very much. Rio is much more sensible than Rina. Look at how well behaved Rio is, and look at yourself. Why can't you learn from Rio? These words can often be heard from Michiko. Especially when Otarina is making trouble. Sometimes Otarina even suspects that she is not her biological child, but Hosokawa Rio is. Hello, Aunt Michiko. Hosokawa Rio stood up and nodded to Ota Michiko with a bright smile. Come, come, sit down. Michiko came to Rio Hosokawa, pulled her to sit down, then looked around and asked, "Where's Aota-kun, hasn't he come back yet?" "Oni-chan is in the kitchen. He said he has guests coming today and he will do it himself," Otarina said weakly, but emphasized the word guests as if to emphasize something. "I told you not to bother. I like the food cooked by Aunt Michiko. It tastes like my mother's," Rio Hosokawa said while holding Michiko's hand. Rio Hosokawa may not be good at other things, but she has put a lot of effort in dealing with elders. After all, she is the one who can survive under the guidance of Hisai Hosokawa. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My Retirement Life in Neon. Author, Wu Nangkuang Song. Chapter 183. Haha, next time you come, tell me what you want to eat and I'll make it. Michiko patted Rio Hosokawa's hand, but there are not many people who can let Qingtian do it himself. He usually doesn't do it at home. With a perfect person like Aunt Michiko at home, I won't do it either. I just wait to eat every day. Ha ha ha, Rio is really good at joking. Michiko Ota laughed so hard that she couldn't close her mouth. Reina Ota looked at the two people who were bragging and couldn't help feeling a little uncomfortable. Her own mother had turned against her, so what else could she say? I'm going upstairs to do my homework. After leaving a word, Reina Ota went back to her own room. Originally, she was waiting for Lin Zion to come back here because she was afraid that Lin Zion would suddenly disappear again. Now, not only did he not disappear, but he also brought another person back, and there was also bad news. I really want to grow up. Looking at the dejected Reina Ota, Michiko couldn't help shaking her head. She knew that if someone didn't give in to Reina's temper, it would be easy for her to get into trouble. You know, Reina used to be tolerant of others, but since Lin Zion came, her personality has become more and more like that person. Is it really like Qingtian said, Reina originally had this personality? Was she just suppressing herself before? Aunt Michiko, can I go upstairs to take a look? Hosokawa Rio's words woke up the daze. Okay, do you want me to lead the way? No need to trouble Aunt Michiko. Hosokawa Rio seemed to have thought of something and asked tentatively, is there anything upstairs that can't be entered? That's not the case. Michiko subconsciously looked in the direction of the basement, and then added, but you'd better not touch Qingtian's things, he doesn't like it. I know this. Hosokawa Rio has seen how Miyazaki-ri got into trouble. Usually, when I enter his room, he doesn't even let me tidy up the quilt, saying that if the quilt is folded up, the stagnant air can't be dispersed, and it's bad for the body. These are incomprehensible words. Michiko rarely complained about Lin Zion. She looked somewhat unwilling. Michiko took Hosokawa Rio to the second floor to look around. There were only 3 rooms to talk about, and the others were empty, so the introduction was finished when they went up to the second floor. Michiko went back to her room to continue working, leaving Hosokawa Rio alone in the corridor. Following Michiko's advice, Hosokawa Rio just stood in front of Lin Zion's room for a while, but there was nothing to see, and she saw it all at a glance. Then she knocked on Otarina's door again. The conversation between the two of them was not over yet. After dinner, Lin Zion sent Hosokawa Rio back. He actually wanted to ask what happened between the two of them and see if he could mediate, but Hosokawa Rio hinted to him several times that this was a matter between women and asked him not to get involved. This situation was very embarrassing. What's wrong with Rina? As soon as he got back, Lin Zion went to tease Rena. After all, he hadn't played with her much in the past few days. What? Rena watched TV, pretending not to care. Nothing, I just asked. Lin Zion retreated immediately when he saw that the situation was not right. Now Rena's condition seemed to be wrong, so it was better for him not to commit suicide. Come here, Rena called Lin Zion, who wanted to slip away, with a little anger on her face. She was angry that Lin Zion brought other women home all day. She was angry that Lin Zion didn't tell her what he did. She was angry that Lin Zion was not ambitious and didn't come to comfort her when she saw her like this. What's wrong? Lin Zion licked his face and went over to sit next to her. Is Uni-chan busy these days? Rena was still angry, but after Lin Zion sat next to her, he disappeared, leaving only a little uneasiness in her heart. Everyone has their own things to do. Just like when I asked your mom to sleep separately from you, it was because you had grown up and it was time for you to have some private space. I am the same way. I know. Rena's voice suddenly rose, then quickly fell back, leaning against Lin Zion and said, but I'm still scared. I'm scared. Rena grabbed Lin Zion's sleeves with both hands. There's nothing to be afraid of, you have to believe me. Lin Zion patted her hands gently. Oda Michiko, who was watching the two of them in the corner, sighed. She knew she couldn't stop anything. A new day. What's different from usual is that Lin Zion brought a skull bag, which is very strange. People who are familiar with him know that there must be some conspiracy in this. But Lin Zion spent this day just like usual, without any waves. It was basically a pool of stagnant water. It didn't come alive until school was over. When everyone else left, Lin Zion went out with his skull bag. Qingtian classmate, Hosokawa Ryo called Lin Zion, who was about to go out, walked up to him and asked, do you want to go home together today? I have something else to do, let's talk about it next time. Lin Zion hesitated for a moment, and finally rejected her invitation. Because he had something to do, it might take a long time to wait, so he didn't want others to wait. Okay, I'll go first. Hosokawa Ryo picked up her skull bag and walked out of the classroom first. See you tomorrow. Lin Zion watched Hosokawa Ryo disappear around the corner, and then he got up and walked over. But he didn't go downstairs, but upstairs. It was time for his deal with Miyazaki-ri. But he didn't notice a pair of eyes looking at him around the corner. That's right, Hosokawa Ryo didn't leave. After talking to Rena that day, she felt that this was the best way to understand Lin Zion. It's time to get back to my old job. Isn't it normal for a detective to follow? She originally thought that Lin Zion was going downstairs, so she went to the next floor and walked around to the other side of the corridor, hoping to follow Lin Zion. Unexpectedly, she saw Lin Zion going upstairs, which reminded her of Gao Shidozai. She followed him immediately, not daring to get too close, so she took another staircase. Until she got to the top floor. When she went up, the door on the roof was already open, and Lin Zion was nowhere to be seen. She knew without thinking that he must have gone in. Ryo Hosokawa did not go up rashly, but listened for a while first, and then approached cautiously when there was no movement. As soon as I got close to the door, I heard a female voice. After the door opens, our transactions will be much simpler. We don't have to do what we did before. Hosokawa Ryo felt that the voice was a bit familiar. Looking through the crack of the door, it turned out to be Miyazun-ri. What kind of deal does Mr. Gongzone have with Mr. Qingtian? Did you bring the goods? Bring it, 2 kilograms, enough for you to eat for a long time. Hosokawa Ryo knew it was Lin Zion's voice as soon as she heard it. She watched Lin Zion hand over the bag in his hand. Miyazun-ri, who took the bag, couldn't wait to open it, took out something from it and stuffed it into her mouth, saying, this is the taste. 2 kilograms is not enough, I want more. No, do you think it's easy to do this? Besides, eating too much of this stuff is not good for your health, so you should eat less. Hosokawa Ryo was already short-sighted, and she got the glasses a long time ago, so she only saw Miyamune putting something in her mouth. Combined with what they just said, Hosokawa Ryo felt that she had discovered a big secret. A secret that subverts my impression of these two people. At this point, she already wanted to quit. After all, those who did such things were murderous people. Having read so many detective novels, she knew that staying any longer would mean seeking death. If those two people find out. My retirement life in Neon. Author, Wu Nangkuang Song. Chapter 184. Hosokawa Ryo, who escaped, was a little at a loss. On the one hand, she didn't believe that Lin Zion would do that kind of thing. This was probably a misunderstanding. On the other hand, the facts she just saw with her own eyes really made her. She knew she'd better go to the police, but the consequences would be. That's right. Ryo Hosokawa thought of something. If Ayada-san really did this, then there must be something wrong with his family. As long as the evidence is found, he will know. There are also Oda mother and daughter, they must be in danger. Thinking of this, Ryo Hosokawa walked quickly to Lin Zion's house. By the time Hosokawa Ryo arrived, Odarina had already returned home. After all, she took a car and left directly from school without staying at school. Open the door. Hurry. Why is it you again? What are you doing? Odarina stood at the door and asked. Stop talking and let me in quickly. Odarina was no match for Hosokawa Ryo. She pushed her away with a gentle push, then took her hand and broke into Lin Zion's house. What are you going to do? Let me go. Odarina twisted her arm uneasily. Who's coming? Hearing Odarina's cry for help, Oda Michiko rushed downstairs, picked up the broom at the corner of the stairs and rushed out. But when she saw it was Hosokawa Ryo, she was obviously stunned. Then she was also dragged away by Ryo Hosokawa. 3 people were sitting on the sofa in the living room. Odarina rubbed the hand that was pulled just now, and a red handprint showed how hard Hosokawa Ryo had just used. Michiko Oda looked confused, she seemed not to understand what was going on. Ryo Hosokawa, on the other hand, looked hesitant to speak, as if he was not ready to say anything yet. What do you want to do? Odarina's slightly angry words broke the calm. I discovered a secret. Ryo Hosokawa took a deep breath, and then said slowly, I discovered that Ayada-san may be a solo, I didn't make a typo, everyone knows it, trafficker. You bad woman. What did you say? Odarina was shocked at first, and then her face changed drastically. She was about to rush over and tear Ryo Hosokawa apart, but was stopped by Oda Michiko and pinned her down on the sofa. Mom, let me go. Odarina twisted her body, trying to escape from Michiko's clutches. But Michiko Oda ignored her and asked about Ryo Hosokawa. Do you have any evidence for what you said? There are some things you shouldn't say. Nonsense. Oda Michiko is much more rational than Reina. Although she was also frightened by Hosokawa Ryo's remarks, she would not blindly believe in one of them. Only evidence can explain the problem. I saw it with my own eyes, Hosokawa Ryo said decisively, and then she recounted what she saw to the 2 people. You pervert, stalking Unai-chan again. No way, I just, accidentally passed by there. You are a pervert, I want to tell Unai-chan. Okay. You all stop. At this time, the majesty of the adult was revealed. The 2 people who were squirting at each other stopped. Michiko Oda looked at Ryo Hosokawa and asked, what you said can't explain anything at all. It's just your unilateral imagination. I know, and I don't believe Ayada-san would do something like that. Ryo Hosokawa seemed to suddenly change her personality, so I'm here to find evidence, and I hope you will cooperate. Enter Detective Hosokawa Ryo. Of course. Oda Michiko nodded. She was curious about what Hosokawa Ryo was thinking. I will prove Unai-chan's innocence, Rina told her angrily. Then the first question Hosokawa Ryo looked into the eyes of the two people and asked, has he done anything unusual recently? No, Reina shouted loudly. Kingtian-kun has been going out a lot lately, Michiko replied in a calm tone. Mom. Reina looked at Michiko dissatisfied. But Michiko ignored her, and Ryo Hosokawa stopped looking at Reina and focused on Michiko. Then do you know where he went and what he did? He said he was going to work, but he didn't know where he was going. Then do you know what his job is? I don't know, but Kingtian-kun said that his job is to accompany rich people to eat, drink and have fun. A thoughtful look appeared on Michiko's face, and his job seems to be quite dangerous. Working with rich people is very dangerous. Hosokawa Ryo muttered to himself, then shook his head and continued to ask. Then do you know when he and Miyazune re-met? I don't know, the first time we met Mr. Miyazune was here, and Mr. Qingtian seemed to be very familiar with her at that time, Michiko recalled and added. There is another strange thing. Mr. Qingtian went out a few days ago. I called Mr. Gongzong and wanted to ask for leave for him, but Mr. Gongzong said that he had already asked for leave. He also said that it would be difficult for Mr. Qingtian to do this every day. She wanted to ask for some favors from him, but he also said that he had not paid her what he owed her before, which made her feel very uncomfortable. Listening to Tomoko's words, Hosokawa Ryo frowned. She thought about Linzian inviting her to the women's bathroom not long after school started. Could it be that Mr. Qingtian was choosing a trading location at that time, and Mr. Gongzong was not suffering from heart disease, but was addicted, so he asked me to leave? No, Mr. Gongzong must have had a real heart attack, and Qingtian used that thing to control Mr. Gongzong and turned her into a part of him in order to facilitate future transactions, so she asked for leave. That's right. Hosokawa Ryo remembered that Lin Ziyan once skipped class, and Gongzong Liwi looked absent-minded, and spent half of the class looking at Lin Ziyan's seat. It must be that after Qingtian left, Mr. Gongzong had no more goods, so she was anxious. Thinking of this, she felt that she was one step closer to the truth, and hurriedly continued to ask. What does he usually do at home? Just playing with mobile phones, playing computers, watching TV, nothing. Michiko thought for a while. Oh, he stayed in the basement for a while, and he didn't let us in. Basement. Hosokawa Ryo felt that she had grasped the key point and asked quickly, do you know what's in it? I don't know, he said he wouldn't let us in. I understand. Hosokawa Ryo stood up and told the two people her guess. After listening to this, Reina shook her head and said, impossible, you liar. That's the truth. Hosokawa Ryo glanced at Reina, who lost her composure, and asked loudly, he asked you to move here just to cover up what he did. Don't you understand? However, just as Hosokawa Ryo finished speaking, the sound of the key being inserted and twisted came, and the three people present looked at each other. Then Hosokawa Ryo watched Reina rush out in horror. It was no longer possible to stop her. She looked at Michiko again, only to see that Michiko was not surprised at all, but very calm. At this time, Hosokawa Ryo realized that the two of them had been corrupted a long time ago. They just cooperated with me to delay time. What should I do? Could it be that I... A voice interrupted her thinking and almost stopped her heart. Hey! Ryo is coming. My Retirement Life in Neon. Author, Wu Nangkuang Song. Chapter 185. Lin Ziyan held his skull bag in one hand, and Oda Reina was holding the other. Reina rushed out as soon as the door opened. At first, he thought Reina was trying to play a prank, but she looked like she had been wronged. He thought Michiko had said something to her again, and just wanted to ask her, but Reina dragged him in without saying a word, and he didn't even have time to change his slippers. But what's the situation now? Lin Ziyan looked at Ryo Hosokawa, who was panicking, and Michiko Oda, who looked like she had nothing to do with it, and Reina Oda, who was beside him, What did these three people do just now? Why did Ryo come here? Seeing that Ryo Hosokawa didn't respond, Lin Zion asked again. Nothing, I'll leave now. Ryo Hosokawa lowered her head and said hesitantly. Leaving now? Not staying for dinner. In Lin Zion's opinion, Ryo Hosokawa's appearance was probably because she had a conflict with Reina Oda, so the two of them were different from usual. However, Michiko Oda on the side did not react. It should not be a big problem. It may be just a matter between little girls. No. I have something to do at home, Hosokawa Ryo said, and wanted to pass by Lin Zion. Oda Reina saw that she wanted to leave and shouted, "Don't let her go, she will report me." What? Lin Zion was confused when he heard this. Why is she going to report? I didn't do anything bad. Hosokawa Ryo knew that he was exposed when he heard Oda Reina's words, and immediately accelerated to rush past Lin Zion. Although Lin Zion didn't understand Oda Reina's words, Hosokawa Ryo's reaction told him that it would be better to stop her, otherwise there would be trouble. Lin Zion subconsciously threw his school bag away, hugged Hosokawa Ryo with a monkey catching the moon, and threw her onto the sofa with a little force. Hosokawa Ryo only felt that he flew up, and then returned to the starting point. Knowing she was no match for him, she shouted to Lin Zion, "Give up, I won't give in." Can anyone explain to me what happened? Lin Zion walked towards Ryo Hosokawa. Don't come over here, I don't know anything. Ryo Hosokawa immediately shrank on the sofa when she saw Lin Zion coming over. Seeing her like that, Lin Zion didn't continue to provoke her, but stopped beside Michiko and asked, "What's wrong with her?" Children love to play, and adults should always be more reliable. As soon as Lin Zion's thought came out of his mind, he was scared back by Michiko's words. She said, "You are a monopoly." What? Lin Zion was completely confused. Would a law-abiding citizen like me do such a thing? This child said you are a monopoly in the basement. Michiko Oda threw out another more outrageous question. What is this? If you don't explain it clearly today, don't even think about leaving this door. Lin Zion looked at Ryo Hosokawa and said with a bad face. I don't know anything, don't kill me. Hosokawa Ryo didn't answer Lin Zion's words at all, because to her, this was already a threat. Mother, I'm sorry for you, I may not be able to go back. Reina, come here, you tell me. Lin Zion saw that Hosokawa Ryo was already scared, it was time for the lackey to show up. I know. Oda Reina ran over happily. This person said he saw the deal between Unai-chan and Miyamoto teacher. At the beginning, the atmosphere was quite serious. When Reina talked about his deal with Miyamoto he wanted to laugh. When he talked about the basement, he couldn't help it and laughed directly. Ha ha ha. Lin Zion's laughter sounded to Hosokawa Ryo that Lin Zion was completely exposed and fell into madness. It's over, I'm sure I'm going to die. Reina, do you believe I would do such a thing? Of course I believe Unai-chan, but... Although Reina believed in Lin Zion, she was not sure. After all, what Hosokawa Ryo said seemed to make some sense. Oda-kun would never do such a thing. Oda Reina was unsure, but Oda Michiko was very sure that Lin Zion would not do such a thing. Because Michiko remembered that once when they were watching TV together, there happened to be news about those things, and Lin Zion accidentally said that he hated those people. She heard the complaints at that time, and there was no need to lie to her in that situation. Seeing that both of them trusted him, Lin Zion felt that the previous work was not in vain, so he continued. It's hard for you to verify the others, but the basement door is not locked, so why don't you go and take a look yourself? Didn't Unai-chan say not to let us go in? I told you not to go in blindly if you have nothing to do. Lin Zion explained with a smile, you will know if you come and take a look. Lin Zion walked to the entrance of the basement, opened the door, and then turned back and caught Hosokawa Ryo. Let's not talk about you following me for now. I'll talk about the deal with Miyamoto later. Come with me to the basement first and you'll know if I did anything like that. I don't want to go in. Hosokawa Ryo tried to struggle, but how could she resist the serious Lin Ziyan? It's over. She's going to be imprisoned in the basement and she can never get out. I don't want it. In her opinion, Lin Ziyan is trying to imprison her. Lin Ziyan ignored her struggle, and the facts always speak for themselves. Come in. Lin Ziyan was the first to walk in with Hosokawa Ryo, and Rina quickly followed, and finally Oda Michiko. Once Hosokawa Ryo entered the basement, she didn't bother to struggle. It was pitch black around her, with only a few rays of light leaking in from the door above. The darkness deepened her fear, and she almost closed her eyes and shrank up. Look here for yourself, where are the things you said? Lin Ziyan put Hosokawa Ryo down and walked to the side to turn on the light. Hosokawa Ryo felt that she had touched the ground, and she opened her eyes quickly. The surroundings were neatly organized, and there were not many things, only a few boxes and a few empty shelves. She saw them all at a glance, and there was nothing she imagined. Did she really blame him wrongly? Seeing that Oda's mother and daughter also came down, Lin Ziyan explained, "This is my workshop and collection room. I don't like others to disturb me when I'm working, and I don't like others to mess with my tools, so I told you not to come in if you have nothing to do. And these tools are too dangerous for you, so children shouldn't touch them." "What is this for?" Reina asked curiously, looking at his carving knife. Carving. He walked over, found a piece of waste material on the table, and cut it with a carving knife. "As you can see, my job is carving. Many rich people can't buy my things even if they reserve them. That's why so many rich people invite me to eat, drink and have fun. Is there anyone else watching? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My Retirement Life in Neon. Author, Wu Nangkuang Song. Chapter 186. Wow! Oni-chan is so amazing. Reina looked at Lin Ziyan with admiration. Oda Michiko also came in for the first time. She was somewhat surprised to learn that Lin Ziyan worked, but everything here also verified that she was not wrong. "Since you are here, I will tell you something." Lin Ziyan took out two semi-finished products from the drawer. There was only an outline, and the specific appearance was not clear. "These two pieces are prepared for you, but they are not ready yet. Although he has been working, he always spends more time slacking off than working, and there are other things to deal with. And there is no rush, so slow work produces fine work." Really? Oda. Reina reached out to the sample and wanted to take it down to see. Lin Ziyan did not give it to her, but just said, "I will give it to you after I finish it. Keep it secret for now." After that, he put it back in the drawer. "No, I want to see it now." Reina hugged his hand and acted coquettishly. "If you look at it now, there will be no finished product. Are you sure you want to see it?" Lin Ziyan also imitated her words. "Then don't." Oda. Reina quickly shook off his hand, ran to her mother, and shouted, "Mom, Oni-chan prepared gifts for us." "You? Okay, isn't it enough that Aota-kun gave you a gift?" "What a fuss." Michiko patted Reina's head and smiled at Lin Ziyan. Michiko didn't expect that she also had a share. It would be a lie to say that she was unhappy. And according to Aota-kun, his work should be very popular. If he gave it to me, what gift should I give him in return? Oda. Reina didn't need to consider this, but as an adult, she should think about these. But she thought about it and felt that she seemed to owe a lot, while Aota-kun seemed to need nothing. Hosokawa Ryo squatted on the ground and watched their interaction, feeling so heartbroken. Why did my reasoning go wrong? I clearly reasoned according to the clues. Impossible, there must be a flaw. Thinking of this, Hosokawa Ryo looked around again, and she found that the things on those shelves were out of place here, both in style and quantity. There is no reason to buy so many shelves for a few things. Hosokawa Ryo walked towards the boxes, and was stopped by Linzayan just as she was about to open them. "Hey! Don't touch my things!" Linzayan saw Hosokawa Ryo walking towards his collection and hurriedly stopped her, as these were dangerous. Hosokawa Ryo thought Linzayan was guilty when she heard what he said, and instead sped up and opened the box. When she looked into the box, she found that it was just bottles of wine. Only then did Linzayan walk up to her. "Why are you like this? I said I don't like others to touch my things. If you want to see, you can ask me to open it for you." Linzayan felt for the first time that Hosokawa Ryo was stupid. Linzayan opened a few boxes casually, and then said indifferently, "These are left by the previous owner of the house. I didn't throw them away, but kept them. If you want to see anything, just look at them." Hosokawa Ryo numbly looked at the neatly arranged crafts in the box. She knew she was completely wrong. Let's go out first." Linzayan closed the box and walked past Hosokawa Ryo. Reina followed Linzayan out of the basement, and Michiko saw Hosokawa Ryo's lost look, and felt sorry for her. She came over and took her hand and said, "Qing Tianjun is easy to talk to. If you apologize well later, he may forgive you." "Really?" Hosokawa Ryo looked up at Michiko. "Really, when I didn't know who he was before, I did something more excessive than you, but now he's fine." Michiko remembered that she had chopped Linzayan with a knife before, and she didn't know what she was thinking at the time, and her head twitched. "Yes. How did he forgive me? Now she can't even understand it when she thinks about it. Does Qing Tianjun like me?" Michiko suddenly remembered what Linzayan said on the bed that day, and her ears turned red. "Let's go out first." Michiko put aside the strange thoughts in her mind and solved this trouble first. Qing Tianjun hated trouble the most. When Michiko dragged Hosokawa Ryo out, Linzayan had already prepared the props. In fact, it was the skull bag that was thrown out. "Hey, this is what you call the tool for transporting independence. Smell it yourself and see what it smells like." Linzayan threw the skull bag to her. Hosokawa Ryo subconsciously caught the skull bag, but she didn't dare to move. Linzayan glanced at Michiko next to her. Michiko understood, took the skull bag, opened it and smelled it herself. "Is this the smell of meat?" Michiko thought it was a bit strange. It was probably Linzayan who packed meat in a skull bag. Hearing Michiko's words, Hosokawa Ryo took the skull bag and smelled it half doubtfully. Sure enough, there was a strange meaty smell, and it felt very familiar. "Reina, go to the refrigerator where the meat is stored and get the black plastic bag out." Linzayan ordered his lackeys to work. Yes, Reina ran to the kitchen immediately after hearing this and quickly took out the things. "Here, this is what I traded with Miyazaki-ri, open it and take a look yourself." Linzayan handed over the plastic bag. After taking it, Hosokawa Ryo opened the bag, and a fragrance that was 100 times stronger than before emanated. When she looked inside, it was already cut meat. Oh! Hosokawa Ryo finally remembered that she had eaten here several times. "This is called soy sauce beef." She reached out and took out a piece from the bag, which was so thin that light could pass through. "When I put it in my mouth, it tasted like memory. Last time, Miyazaki-ri helped a lot with Reina's admission. She knew I could do this, so she kept asking me to make it for her. This is the deal between me and her. As for the bag in your hand, I was going to give it to you as a thank you for your care at school, but I was afraid that Reina would cheat on me, so I kept it a secret from them. Since you are here, take it back." Linzayan looked at Oda Michiko and said, "Send you away." Then Linzayan turned around and went back upstairs. When Hosokawa Ryo heard Linzayan say the word "send you away," his heart was broken and he could only stand there blankly. "Why didn't you even give me a chance to apologize? Why? Go back first, and come back to apologize when Aota-kun is no longer angry," Michiko hurriedly advised her when she saw her in this state. "Don't come here, you are not welcome here." Oda Reina is now completely hostile to Hosokawa Ryo. "Don't talk, kid. Go see Aota-kun. I'll take Rio home. Michiko chased Reina away. Oni-chan hates you. Reina ran upstairs without giving her mother a chance to hit her. Hosokawa Rio returned home, holding the black plastic bag in her hand, and took out the meat piece by piece and ate it. The braised meat hurts my heart when it goes down my throat, and the night is long without him in my dream. My retirement life in Neon. Author, Wu Nangkuang Song. Chapter 187. Oni-chan. Oni-chan, Ota Reina ran up to the second floor excitedly, but she didn't find Lindsay-ian in the room. Then she searched every room, but still couldn't find any trace of Lindsay-ian. Ota Reina looked up at the ceiling, then turned around and ran up to the third floor. Oni-chan, what are you doing? Ota Reina looked at Lindsay-ian with his hands on the fence, leaning back, looking up at the sky at a 45-degree angle. Oh, it's Reina. Lindsay-ian looked at Ota Reina, smiled and said, why are you coming up? Are you okay, Oni-chan? Reina slowly walked to Lindsay-ian and leaned against the wall like him. What? Come to comfort me. Lindsay-ian lowered his head and smiled, I'm fine. Don't Oni-chan hate her? Reina asked curiously. Hate? Lindsay-ian smiled, why should I hate her? If I were her, I would be more radical than her if I found that kind of thing, and she is more reliable than you. If I really am, what would you do? Because I always believe in Oni-chan. Reina grabbed his hand and rubbed it on her face. Be smarter, what you see may not be all. Lindsay-ian pulled his hand out and put it on her head, but she is similar to you, not much smarter. If it were me, I would call the police directly and let professionals handle it. Reina is obviously very smart. Okay, Reina is the smartest. Ota Reina seemed dissatisfied with Lindsay-ian's extremely perfunctory attitude, and pulled Lindsay-ian's hand off her head. Yo, is our Reina angry? Lindsay-ian teased her again. No, Reina was speechless about Lindsay-ian's heartless look. Obviously such a big thing happened just now, but he acted like nothing happened. Oni-chan, do you really not feel anything? Ota Reina was a little worried. She was afraid that Lindsay-ian would hide everything like she used to, just to make her mother worry. Until she met him. Ota Reina looked at him, her thoughts could not help but roll. The man in front of her almost filled her mind. Lindsay-ian suddenly found that Reina looked at him a little strangely, so he asked, what's wrong? Is there something on my face? I'm asking you. Ota Reina reacted and looked into the distance, but the slight blush on her face could not be concealed. Feeling? I think it's quite funny. Lindsay-ian didn't say anything nonsense, he really thought it was funny. I'm afraid that what's in Hosokawa Ryo's mind is not a brain hole, but a black hole. This can be strung together, and it can be explained by himself. If he hadn't really never done it, he would really believe it. What a genius. I'm not kidding you. Reina suddenly felt that it was not worth it for Hosokawa Ryo. She had thought that Hosokawa Ryo had fallen out with Lindsay-ian because of this matter, and she would not be able to threaten her in the future. Who knew that such a big joke was really a joke in front of Lindsay-ian, and he didn't even feel betrayed. In other words, Hosokawa Ryo didn't have much status in Lindsay-ian's heart. Maybe she was just an insignificant classmate in his heart. What about me? What's the difference between her status in his heart and hers? Ota Reina was getting more and more scared, and her hands clenched unconsciously. What's the matter? Lindsay-ian felt that Reina suddenly became serious, and he couldn't continue to talk nonsense, so he had to say it seriously. Actually, I understand classmate Hosokawa. Let's not talk about whether I have XX or not. Who wouldn't panic if ordinary people found out about these things? She came back to save you. This is not an ordinary friendship. You have to remember not to quarrel with her in the future. I know, what else? Ota Reina kept looking down at her feet. And, I'm a little curious about why Hosokawa-san is following me. I can't figure it out, there's no reason at all. Lindsay-ian shook his head and said. Lin Ziyan usually closes his five senses and suppresses them to the level of ordinary people. Moreover, he didn't do anything after coming here. Even if he did something, he would deal with it cleanly. He didn't have any enemies in Neon, and not many people really knew him, so he didn't pay attention to these. Then, have you ever thought that she likes you? Odarena couldn't help but speak for Hosokawa Ryo. Like? Impossible. I know what kind of person I am, and her feelings for me are more like looking for a sense of security, not love at all. I used to meet a little girl who is very similar to her, and I know this better than you. Lin Ziyan thought of Yukino Jiame again. The frowning look left a deep impression on him. Little girl? Who is it? Odarena suddenly became sensitive and asked while pulling Lin Ziyan's clothes. Trouble. Lin Ziyan smiled and said, have you forgotten? Who treated me as a tool and made me sleep in the corridor? After Lin Ziyan said this, Odarena blushed and said, how could it be? It was obviously you who didn't come in. Okay, my fault. Lin Ziyan looked at Rena's expression and knew that he had gotten away with it. Then I'll go over to help Unii-chan Nu on the bed tonight, okay? That's my compensation. It's so hot now, it's not good at all. I'll thank you if you don't come to make noise in the morning. Humph. Unii-chan, you big fool. Odarena ran downstairs after saying that. Lin Ziyan looked at Rena's back and smiled. If I wasn't stupid, I would have died a long time ago. Hosokawa Ryo cried all day while hugging her pillow. The more she thought about what happened today, the more she felt like a fool. Hosokawa Ryo was asking herself, don't you like him? Why don't you believe him even for this? What should I do? Qingtian will definitely hate me. No, he already hates me. Hosokawa Ryo remembered Lin Ziyan's last words, see you off, which completely broke her heart. She had no choice but to remember what her mother said before she left, and called her mother. Mother, dear lady. Hosokawa Ryo's slightly crying voice immediately attracted the attention of Hosokawa Hisi, who immediately asked, daughter, what's wrong, who bullied you, tell me quickly. As soon as she said this, another voice came in. What? Someone is bullying Ryo. We'll go back right away. Give me your phone back, and go away. Hisi Hosokawa's voice came back, and he asked calmly, tell me if anything happened. Did your boyfriend bully you? I'll settle the score with him. No, it's my own problem, Ryo Hosokawa explained quickly, and then she told her mother what happened today. Hisi Hosokawa on the other side of the phone had a weird look on her face, as if she was trying to hold back her laughter, and Yuji Hosokawa on the side was even more curious about what happened to her daughter when she saw her like this. Mother, what should I do now? This. Hisi Hosokawa had no choice but to say, just like what the aunt said, wait until he calms down before apologizing. After hanging up the phone, Hisi Hosokawa couldn't help laughing wildly on the sea. My Retirement Life in Neon. Author, Wu Nangkuang Song. Chapter 188. A few days have passed since that day, and Lin Ziyan is still the same. He paddles in class and plays with his mobile phone at home. He has no interaction with Hosokawa Ryo and is almost isolated. However, he was originally a marginalized person in the class, so he didn't cause any problems. However, Jinzi Fujiang often looked at him strangely. When he asked her on the phone, he would either not reply or call her a scumbag. This made him a little confused. He clearly didn't provoke her. But Lin Ziyan won't waste his mood on this. She can watch it if she likes. Anyway, she won't lose a piece of flesh. Shigeki Aoda-san, come to the teacher's room after school later. Miyazune called out after class, and then left. Lin Ziyan didn't react at all, but classmate Cha Diao came again. What did Mr. Gongzone call him for? It goes without saying that he hasn't been here for several days this month. The teacher must be doing it because of this. He might be a bad guy. So what if I'm a delinquent? This is Qingshan Academy. Does he think this is a school in the countryside? Yes, he's not like Mr. Jinzi Fujiang. He's good at studying and beautiful. Hey! Did you hear that the group in class A was disbanded, and the leader announced it himself? Really? Then isn't our classmate Jin Ji the number one in the first grade? Lin Ziyan listened to what they said, and finally turned to Jinzi Fujiang and other gossips. Without nutrition, Lin Ziyan played with his mobile phone and ignored them. After finally staying up until school was over, Lin Ziyi sat in his original position and waited until there were fewer people around before going out. When he walked to the teacher's room, Lin Ziyan looked in at the door and saw that Rima Yasu was the only one left, and all the other teachers had left. How's it going? What's the matter? Why don't you go to the rooftop this time? Lin Ziyan pushed the door open and walked in, casually pulling out a chair and sitting down. What are you doing? I'm talking to you as a teacher now. Miyazunri pretended to be serious. I can tell you that teachers will not cause trouble for students. Have you thought clearly? Lin Ziyan made a show of getting ready. Hey, please sit down. Miyazunri heard this and greeted her with a smile. Friend, this is a conversation between friends. Really, what are you going to do again? Lin Ziyan sat back down and said lazily, I've already agreed. I won't do it if there's no benefit, I won't do it if it's too troublesome, I won't do it if I'm in a bad mood. It's good, it's not troublesome, and you must be in a good mood. Miyazunri handed over a stack of paper. Lin Ziyan took it and flipped through it, and found that it was a list and resume of applicants for student union president. What do you want to do? Want me to run for election? Lin Ziyan put the documents aside and asked casually. How is that possible? I know you won't go, and you can't go either. You have to serve in the student union to participate. Then why did you call me here? Of course Lin Ziyan knew. He had heard Yotsuki Hideki say before that the reason why he asked Gong Zhongri like that was actually to mock her. You can't participate, but Tsuzi Tomi can, as long as you. Miyazunri was about to continue talking when she was interrupted by Lin Ziyan. I won't do it. It won't do me any good, and it's thankless. Lin Ziyan knew what she wanted to do as soon as she opened her mouth. He would not do such a thing. No, please listen to me first. Gong Zhongri sat on the chair and slid in front of Lin Ziyan. Computer chair with casters. Lin Ziyan looked at her as if he was waiting for your performance. Think about it, if Jinzi Tomi becomes the president of the student union, it will be of great benefit to our class. Miyazunri used both hands and feet to point fingers in front of Lin Ziyan, trying to impress him by drawing a pie. Class, if there is someone who can speak well in the student union, first of all, it will be much easier for our class to apply for activity funds, and secondly. Lin Ziyan listened to a lot of what Gong Zhongri said and looked at her with a smile. Does this have anything to do with me? Of course. Don't talk to me about class honor or collective consciousness. We are all adults. Can you be more realistic? Can't you help Tsuzi Tomi-san? Are you stupid yourself, or do you think I'm stupid? You know clearly that Jinzi Fujiang and I have conflicts. If I send her up, don't I commit suicide on my own? Gong Zhongri was stunned speechless by Lin Ziyan within a few words. Seeing her here, Lin Ziyan didn't want it to end so soon. Let's not talk about this. Even if I want to help her, tell me how to help her? I have no money, no connections, and no strength. There is nothing I can do. It's not that I don't want to help. Since she wanted to play, Lin Ziyan didn't mind playing with her for a while. Don't you know how to do that? Miyazunri whispered. Now is a legal society. You know, in our case you are breaking the law. Do you want you to be arrested or me to be arrested? I know. I know. Miyazunri shook her hand frantically as if she was crazy. Forget it if you don't help. Yo. You still lose your temper. Lin Ziyan looked at her and smiled. I haven't even settled the accounts with you for the rooftop incident last time. Wouldn't it be interesting to bring Lina over to watch my jokes? No way, we came together because we saw Hasakawa-san. When Linzian mentioned this, Miyazunri's eyes flickered and he hesitated. I've already asked Reina, what else do you have to say? Linzian watched her performance and directly said one sentence to kill her. I was betrayed by Reina, I took such a big risk to tell her. Gongzong Liwi leaned back with her hands on her head. I was betrayed by you. How many times have I helped you? I saved you in front of your sister at least 3 times, and I also pleaded for you in front of Reina. Is this how you treat me? Speaking of this, Linzian was angry. This Gongzong Liwi was a cat that could not be tamed. She had no principles. If it weren't for Chihiro, Linzian didn't want to deal with her. I didn't want to either, just forgive me. Gongzong Liwi tried to get away with it, but the problem was that she was not cute at all. Okay, don't look for me if you have nothing to do. I'm not as free as you. In fact, what Linzian wanted to tell her more was that Tsuji Tomi could not be elected. According to the information just now, the hard power of the people ahead of her was almost unshakable. Tsuji Tomi was just a little more beautiful, but no fool would use this as a selection criterion. It's normal for Gongzong Liwi to push Jinji Tomi up, which involves her interests, but it's impossible to drag Linzian into the water. He might as well go home and sleep and play with his phone if he has this free time. Anyway, let's put it this way. If Jinji Tomi can be elected as the president of the student union, he will drop out of school on the spot. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My Retirement Life in Neon. Author, Wu Nangkuang Song. Chapter 189. Although Linzian didn't want to participate in the election of the president of the student union of Tsuji Tomi, he was forced to participate. It wasn't that Gongzong Liwi forced him, but the whole class had to go. Some prepared slogans, some prepared speeches, some organized people, and some prepared flyers. The whole class was working hard and wanted to work overtime at night, especially the boys in the class. Of course, this did not include Linzian. Linzian was the worst. When he was about to leave after school, he was caught by Gongzong Liwi, and then he was assigned to distribute flyers in the school. This is for you. You can't leave until you finish distributing it. Gongzong Liwi handed a large stack of flyers to Linzian. Linzian wanted to refuse, but before he opened his mouth, the whole class looked at him. Looking at their eyes, it seemed as if they would rush up and tear him to pieces if Linzian didn't agree. Thinking that he was usually the last one to leave but was the first one to leave the classroom today, he couldn't help feeling a little ashamed. Do you believe it? Okay, thinking of this, Linzian took the flyer and agreed. In order to distribute flyers, Linzian went to the place with the highest traffic in the school, near the fountain in front of the school gate, and shouted loudly. Take a look, the freshly baked school beauty. No, it's a popular candidate for the president of the student union. Come on, don't miss it if you pass by, the photo album of the school beauty Tsuji Tomi, a special edition, you can't find it anywhere else. You can't buy it at a loss, you can't buy it, come and take a look. It's really not. Linzian complaining, why does the cover photo of this promotional flyer look like the cover of a photo album? You can imagine what it looks like, it's the JK school uniform. I don't know which genius Miyazaki asked to take the photo, and what's more amazing is that Tsuji Tomi cooperated. What? Is it the photo album of Tomi Tsuji? Quick, let me see. Where are the brothers from the fan club? I'm here. Linzian was surrounded by people not long after he finished speaking, and some people were scrambling for flyers. He completed the task in a few minutes. After leaving there, Linzian looked at those people and shook his head. It seems that Tomi Tsuji still has some influence in the school, but it shouldn't affect the election. If she really becomes the president of the student union, I will have to drop out of school. It shouldn't be. No matter how stupid the fans are, there is a limit. The person elected is closely related to their campus life, and Tomi Tsuji is obviously not qualified in his eyes. Lin Zion looked at those NC fans and suddenly felt as if he had done something wrong. After thinking about it, it wouldn't be real. Lin Zion was stopped by Tomi Tsuji not long after he walked out of the school gate. Her face flushed red, and she glared at Lin Zion and said, What did you say just now? You are really a pervert. Look at what you said, I'm handing out flyers for you. Lin Zion looked around and saw that there was no one. It seemed that Tsuji Tomi had been upset with him at school, and then followed him out. If Mayaso dared to assign such a task to him, she should be mentally prepared. Now it is Tsuji Tomi, the protagonist, who has an opinion. Did you ask Takaishi Momo to disband her fan club? Although Tsuji Tomi didn't like any fan club, it was her election time now, and she couldn't give up any power. But at this time, Takaishi Momo announced the disbandment of her fan club. The original competitor suddenly disappeared, and she could focus more on the election. This incident reminded her of Lin Zion, Takaishi Momo's fiancé. What if he was helping her persuade Takaishi Momo to disband? Then why did he do that? Could it be that he really likes me? No, he is a scumbag, I can't be fooled by him. First he had a fiancé, then he provoked classmate Ryo Hosokawa, and now he abandoned classmate Hosokawa. Tsuji Tomi looked at Lin Zion with disgust and contempt. I don't know anything, you found the wrong person. Lin Zion always felt that there was something wrong with this person, so it was better not to provoke her. Lin Zion avoided Tsuji Tomi and walked past her, but Tsuji Tomi's questioning followed. Takashi Momokai hasn't come to school for a few days. I heard that she asked for a long vacation. Do you dare to do it or not? Let's not say that I didn't do any of the things you said, and even if I did, what does it have to do with you? Being nosy doesn't make you look like a good person. Lin Zion left after he finished speaking, and didn't intend to continue talking to her at all. Tsuji Tomi looked at Lin Zion's back and couldn't calm down for a long time. She couldn't help asking herself, am I really nosy? When Lin Zion is alone, he prefers to walk along the riverside road. First, there is no one there. Few people are as idle as him. Second, it is quiet and there are no cars around. Sometimes when the weather is good, he will lie on the grass on the riverbank to bask in the sun. Such a comfortable life is not what he could imagine before. What is the use of immortality? In the end, it is all in vain. Oni-I-chan. Oni-I-chan. Something bad has happened. As soon as Lin Zion got home, he heard Odorena's voice and could only ask helplessly, who wants to report me again? No, come and see, Ziobai has fainted. Odorena pulled his arm and shouted anxiously. Wait a minute, let me change my shoes first. Lin Zion had guessed a little, so he was neither anxious nor slow. Hurry up, Reina urged. Got it. Lin Zion changed his shoes and walked towards the kitchen. There was a big black meat mountain across the road ahead, and Michiko Oda was anxiously walking back and forth beside him. Ziobai fell down while eating, and he didn't respond when I called him. Should he be sent to the pet hospital? Michiko Oda said when she saw Lin Zion coming back. She knew how important this cat was to Lin Zion. Except for Lin Zion, neither she nor Reina had ever touched this cat, and it would run away if they got close. Usually Lin Zion fed it salmon belly, and it was very delicate. Since Lin Zion went out for 2 days last time, she took over, and the cat began to accept her. Michiko also served it very carefully, but who knew that it fell to the ground just after eating today, and didn't respond when she called it. This scared the mother and daughter. If it was her problem that caused Ziobai to be like this, would he be driven away? She didn't care, an adult would not starve to death there, but she knew Reina couldn't leave Linzian. Linzian also saw the two people's panic and explained quickly, "This is none of your business, Xiaobai is just hibernating." Hibernating. Times 2. The two were completely confused. "It's almost summer, and you're telling me to hibernate?" "Yes, hibernate." Linzian patted Xiaobai's fat, and Xiaobai's body trembled as if waves were rising. My Retirement Life in Neon. Author, Wu Nangkuang Song. Chapter 190. "It's okay, don't be afraid, Xiaobai will wake up after sleeping enough," Linzian said as he picked up Xiaobai. However, Linzian did not take Xiaobai back to the room, but took him to the basement under the watchful eyes of Oda's mother and daughter. When Linzian picked him up just now, he checked the fusion in Xiaobai's body. He knew that Xiaobai had just begun to truly evolve, and the previous ones were just preparations for today. He took 2 towels to make a nest for Xiaobai and put it in. Linzian stayed in the basement for a while, watching Xiaobai's steady breathing. He remembered how cute it looked when it was a child. From raising it in the palm of his hand to now, Linzian can be said to have watched it grow up, and now it has come to a critical moment. Whether it can transform depends on itself. I don't know how long it will take, so Linzian kept Kinksuan. Anyway, she also has to digest those things. When Linzian went out, he saw Oda's mother and daughter waiting for him at the door of the basement. "It's really okay. Xiaobai is like this. It's not the first time. Don't worry." Linzian still had to take some time to explain to them, so that they wouldn't turn around and bury Xiaobai. Although Linzian's words did not dispel their doubts, it seemed that nothing should happen. It's okay if it's not his problem, and he didn't cause trouble for Qing Tianjun. Oda Michiko breathed a sigh of relief and turned to clean up the mess left by Xiaobai. Instead, Oda Reina pestered Linzian and asked why Xiaobai hibernated. Linzian didn't know what to say, so he had to let her ask Xiaobai herself, and then she left, and it seemed that she was very angry. Starting this week, there will be a big event in the school, that is, the election of the president of the student union. It will be on Saturday afternoon, and all teachers and students in the school will participate. In other words, there is no holiday on Saturday, which is a serious blow to Linzian. After all, he has less time to be a salted fish for half a day. Because this matter has nothing to do with him, whoever becomes the president of the student union has no effect on him. With an election system, there are of course speeches by candidates to solicit votes, and Tomi Tsutsuji's speech is scheduled for Wednesday, so before that, of course, there must be a campaign, the bigger the better. So Miyazaki-ri is no longer satisfied with the low-level and inefficient method of handing out flyers, and she has adopted a more intuitive method. Pulling Tomi Tsutsuji around to promote like a monkey every day is not the most terrible thing. The most terrible thing is that there are really a group of people following. And several other candidates have also followed suit, and the school after school is simply a group of demons dancing, like a pyramid scheme organization. Because he was afraid of being caught, Linzian would slip away after school and didn't give them any chances at all. Now Odarina and her friends go home together, so Linzian has been alone recently. Instead of feeling bored, he feels very comfortable. Linzian lay on the grass on both sides of the river bank. It's a little hot now, but it doesn't affect him. It's a pity that I didn't bring a book with me, otherwise it wouldn't be so dazzling if there were a book to block the sun. It's true that you only regret not having read enough when you need it. Linzian had just sighed, and then he found a very strange person walking onto the bridge and looking down from the bridge. Jumping into the river? Linzian stood up and walked over with curiosity. He couldn't see clearly when he was far away, but when he got closer, Linzian felt a sense of oppression. Not in terms of momentum, but in terms of body shape. Linzian saw that this brother was big and strong, at least 180 centimeters tall, definitely taller than him, and his hands were as thick as his thighs. People who didn't know him would be discouraged at first sight. Brother, what are you doing? Lin Zion tried to strike up a conversation. The other party turned around when he heard Lin Zion's words, and almost scared Lin Zion. It turned out that this brother was a girl. Lin Zion looked at the big shorts she wore and the short-sleeved t-shirt with cartoon characters printed on it, plus the medium-length hair that hadn't been taken care of for who knows how long. No matter how you look at it, she is a typical fat otaku. Besides, she was leaning on the railing just now, so her female features were not obvious, or maybe she was just too fat and could not be seen at all. "Who are you?" the man asked. Lin Zion heard that the voice was no different from that of a normal person except that it was a little thicker than that of a normal person. "Nothing, I was just bored and wanted to find someone to chat with." Lin Zion also leaned on the railing next to her and looked down. "What about you?" "What does it have to do with you?" Sakai Otoha turned his head away and ignored the man who came from nowhere. "Looking down here is not as good as looking up," Lin Zion said to himself. "Who are you? Don't care." Sakai Otoha looked at Lin Zion and was about to start scolding, but was interrupted by Lin Zion. "I am Kongmyo Qingtian, what about you?" Lin Zion looked at her with a smile. "Tisk. I am Sakai Otoha." Seeing Lin Zion looking at her like this, Sakai Otoha said reluctantly. "Are you unhappy?" Lin Zion asked tentatively. "Don't be so annoying, okay? Do you see that place?" Lin Zion pointed to the place where he was lying just now. "Huh?" Sakai Otoha looked at Lin Zion in confusion. She was wondering if there was anything wrong with his brain. Why was he like a fool? "I just came from there." "Do you know why?" Lin Zion continued to talk to himself. Oh, Sakai Otoha was extremely perfunctory. She didn't have any feelings for Lin Zion now. "Because I think you need me." Lin Zion patted her shoulder in a familiar way, "and I need you too." "You?" Sakai Otoha looked at the man in front of her in surprise. Someone would actually say such words to her. "I'm not happy now, so can you tell me something that makes you unhappy to cheer me up?" Lin Zion suddenly changed his tone, and his steady tone just now became naughty. Sakai Otoha suddenly didn't know whether to laugh or get angry. She was moved in vain. "My life is a tragedy," Lin Zion said to himself. "I was forced to leave my hometown and come here, and then I was beaten up at the beginning of school. I was laughed at for a whole month at school." Lin Zion said a lot of things. Anyway, no matter how miserable it was, he treated the jokes that happened during this period as jokes. "Not long ago, a friend broke off contact with me because of a misunderstanding. You know, that was one of my only two friends at school." After Lin Zion said this, Sakai Otoha could still smile at first, but later she became more gloomy. "Come on, I've finished talking about mine, it's your turn to tell me your story and make me happy." Lin Zion seemed to be heartless. "Me? Ha? Not much better than you." Sakai Otoha smiled self-deprecatingly and told Lin Zion about her story.